Hi, thank you and welcome to my channel. My name is Sola John and it's good having you again. Please, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, just click on that red button and subscribe so that you can have access to more videos. What do I want to talk about today? I want to talk about something interesting, something that will help you to be better, something that will improve your person, your intelligence, your relationship, something that gives you access to more information and knowledge in life. What am I talking about? Asking questions. You know, the question you ask is an indication of your intelligence. It tells what you know and what you don't know. And there are different kind of people, okay? If you don't know and you don't know that you don't know. You don't know and you don't know that you don't know. It's a bad case. You need help, okay? But you see, if you don't know and realize you don't know, you can be helped. But again, if you don't know and you know the person that can help you to know, you are about to be free. So here is it. Asking questions doesn't make you a fool. Refusing to ask questions make you a fool. I say it again. Asking questions doesn't make you a fool. Refusing to ask questions makes you a fool. And so when you keep quiet, you don't learn. When you ask questions, you learn. However, you must know how to ask, when to ask, who to ask, and where to ask. It's very important. It's not just about asking questions, okay? How do I ask questions? You need to know. When we're talking about how to ask questions, we're talking about different kind of means of inquiries. You can go straight forward. Excuse me, do you know the street of so and so business? Do you know the address to so and so place? That's a straightforward question. Now, if you ask that way and you ask the right person, in most cases you will get an answer. But there are some people, they don't ask that way. They ask rhetorical questions. Asking rhetorical questions means you ask a question that people will not be able to answer. You are only asking because you just feel like asking. That's a rhetorical question. Some ask sarcastic questions, okay? Questions that make fun and jest of people, and yet they don't know and they don't get answer. But you can also ask soliciting question that compels response. So there is a how to ask questions. You need to learn the art of asking questions, especially when you are relating with mentors, people that are above you. One of the best ways to learn from them is to ask questions and ask genuinely, and you are taking note of all they are telling you, because there's a way to improve your life. Life is too short to experience everything, and some experiences can consume you, so you have to be careful, okay? Then what again? Who to ask questions. You go around asking someone who knows. You go around asking someone who knows better than you. Someone who can tell you what you have not heard. And listen to me, sometimes when you are asking people who are much more experienced, older than you, they may not just answer you straightforward. They will tell you a story. Now, don't mix it up. Don't go with the story. No, that is not the point. The whole essence of the story is that you can tease out the lessons. So when they are telling you the story, follow them. But take note, the time they refuse to do the right thing. You know, somebody, I asked a question some years ago from an older man, and he smiled and showed me his car, his hand. When he showed me this car, he began to tell me his story. I mentioned the story of people he had to relate with. In each of the story he was telling me, I was seeing his mistakes. Okay, and he said he didn't know what he knows now. Now, he wasn't telling me the story and was saying, I made this mistake here, I made this one here. He was just telling the story. And I left that place a better person. Where he was supposed to enter into an agreement and he didn't enter into an agreement. Where he put in finances and he didn't have evidence because he was doing those things on trust. So when you hear them responding to you and telling you stories, there are a lot more to it, and you need to pay attention to it. Don't just run away with the story. Pick the lesson behind the story. Then you ask books, okay? I started building library when I was 17 years old, okay? So I'm still proud to say that one of my prized possessions is my library. I have a huge library. I still buy books. Till yesterday, I still bought, okay? Last week I bought, and then I keep buying books, okay? Because I know what they do for me. In most cases, when I'm going through tough times, I just say to myself, the answer is in my library. The answer is somewhere in the library. I just begin to go through the books. I have one book that may have an answer to what I am going through. So that's how it works. Consult the right books, okay? Build a library, okay? Have access to books and then read them. They hold answers that you may not get to hear from the author or from people around you who have gone through experience. Another way you can ask, we used to say Google is your friend. You know, a lot of people carry smartphone and they are not smart, and you are wondering why they are not smart. You have Google to ask. Some people ask some questions online and I'm wondering, do they really know what they're talking about? Before you ask anybody, have you tried to Google it? Have you read things about it? So that when you are talking about it, people just know that you know something about something. You can't afford to be ignorant in this age. If you are ignorant, it's a choice. Okay? Asking questions is a skill and you must learn it. You must learn to. My children ask me questions sometimes and I say I don't know, and they say, Daddy, can't you ask Google? And I'm challenged because they know that if you don't know something, there is a place you can get to know. Now they are grown, so they collect the phone themselves and they just go online and ask questions. Okay? And sometimes I want to know some things and I ask them because I know they are better in that area more than I do. Okay? I ask one of my children if I want to know anything about animals, about any birds. He has so much interest in wildlife and he will tell me, they will teach me. Okay, so I don't need to go to Google, you know. And there's another one if it is about literature and all of those things, you know. So that's the thing. You just know who to go to, you know the book to go to, you know to go to Google because you know Google is your friend. But in life, you must learn to be curious, okay, about everything. Be genuinely curious about everything. You know, reasonable questions. Learn to ask reasonable questions. Say you are saying something and then you pause the other time. Could you tell me a little more? Some years ago, I had this mentor. We especially when you relate with old people, you need to be very sensitive. Be curious when you're around them. Okay, they don't always just talk. They're not flippant. They've seen life. And then he took me somewhere. He was to have a public speaking engagement, so he divided the people audience into two. Gave me the younger generation and he spoke to the older ones. And then on our way back, he asked me, he said, what's the name of this area? I told him. And then he said, that's old people for you, okay? When they have something to say, but they don't know if you're interested, they just say, Then I said, Daddy? And he said, yes. I said, you asked me the name of this area. What exactly do you have in mind when you asked me? He said, I used to have a land here many years ago and I sold it. And I went further asking, why did you sell it? By this time I wasn't married, so I didn't understand the reality of raising children. And he began to tell me why he had to sell it. Why would he keep land when his children had to pay fees and all of that. I wasn't married, but it gave me an understanding. So if they want to talk to you, other people want to talk to you, they just don't go, they are not flippant. You need to be inquisitive, but sometimes you need to know the cue, okay? When they are talking and they pause, sometimes those experiences are painful and they don't just want to go into it, except you are going to value it. So you've got to know who to ask questions, then when to ask. There is time for everything. In my local palace, they used to say, an old man cannot be crying to go to a place for a funeral and you will ask him to buy you eye salve, lead pencil. You don't do that, okay? They don't relate. You need to know when to ask questions. There is time for everything. There are times people want to talk, okay? There are times people are eager to give you their attention. You need to know when they have your time. Okay, sometimes you need to solicit for it. So can I see you at so time? It's just like someone calling me up and he's saying to me, I need to see you today. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. Because a day before, I planned my day already. And you can't just come and sandwich yourself. If it is not emergency, you've got to be patient. Okay, so you need to know when to ask questions. Then ask when you can learn. Ask when the person can give you attention. Ask when you can learn. It's not every time we can learn. There are times someone is telling you something and you are not really interested. When you are tired, when you are hungry, sometimes when you are excited, we lose a lot of information in those periods. Okay, so you need to know when you also can learn. Okay, you also need to know when you need to know. Okay, sometimes we don't ask questions when we should. I give you a classic example. Someone who is yet to enter into higher institution has a chance of learning a lot of things about higher institution. Now when you get there, you are confronted with the crisis of it. Sometimes you don't, so you can ask questions before you actually need the answer. And then you carry the answer that's been given to you and store it in the hard disk of your mind. Okay, you store it in the hard disk of your mind. So if you can ask before you need the answer, it will be helpful. Then while you are in need of the answer, you can ask, but not after you need the answer. Okay, it's medicine after death. Why will you ask a question when it's no longer useful for you? In retrospect, well, but I think there's time for everything, and it's good that you know. Then when next do you ask questions? When you are confused, when you don't know what to do, please ask questions. When you are confused, you need to ask questions, because clarity is what you need to be able to provide. Then where to ask questions? Ask where there is the opportunity. Then ask sometimes where you are secure to do so. When I was a master's student, something happened. We were in a class. My prof had this culture of bringing us to his office. We are not too many of us. He will order for snacks for us, okay, and for drinks. So over snacks and drink, we will have lecture for 4 to 5 hours at a stretch. And he was really enjoying it. Then one day I asked him a question, because he was telling us that as a young lecturer, they were paid in an envelope, okay, and they were paid cash. And he was telling us, so I was moved to ask him a question. If that is the case, and I know he published papers in international journals, and he became a professor and all of that, and I asked him, sir, how did you manage your family? Because already I was a family person, so you can guess why I'm asking. A lot of my colleagues were single, they weren't married, but only few of us were married, maybe about 3 or 4 of us in a class of about 12 to 15 people, you know. And I was curious about how he could manage with that money, publishing paper. And he said to me, Shola, I wish you asked me this privately, you know, because in answering the question, he almost shed tears, okay? And he was saying how he was managing his home with publishing papers and all of that. And he was regretting that. How comes that when his money started coming, because now he was a prof, his children were grown and they already have left home, okay? It's only his grandchildren he could spend money on and all of that, okay? So there is where to ask questions. What he was indirectly saying to me by saying, I wish you ask privately, is that you don't ask me this in public. I also need to let you know this. I once served under a leader, okay? And I asked him a question in a leaders meeting, an expanded leaders meeting of about 15 leaders. And he was angry with me, and he was angry. Till the end of the meeting, he kept referring to it, and I learned a lesson from there. He's not someone who being asked certain questions in the public. I had private audience with him. He would have expected me to ask him privately. Okay, he would have been able to explain to me when I asked publicly. And so you must also learn where to ask questions. There are questions you ask publicly that become embarrassing to the person, especially when you have access to the person. But in all, develop that attitude of asking questions. If you don't know and you know you don't know, that's good for you. Every one of us is ignorant at one point or the other. But refusing to ask questions is what makes us a fool, not really asking a question. Until I come your way next time, enjoy yourself, keep making impact, and keep being inquisitive. Welcome to careerwise.ng, your career solution site. What we do basically is provide assessment for you, coaching for you, recruitment, internship. We have coaches. Orlando is a coach from Brazil, is an international coach. Lara Langham from UK, my humble self, and we have some other coaches from Nigeria. You can go on our website, careerwise.ng. Use the contact form and reach out to us. Meet us on Twitter, we are CareerWiseNG1. Instagram, we are on Facebook. Reach out to us, we are available to help you.